Do you feel trapped in your career and you just want to know how to get out of it and you're so depressed and you're like, what do I do? Well, listen to my story as I'm going to tell you how I used spirituality in its most rudimentary way to move from a career in teaching, which I loved and hated, but loved, but hated, into information technology, where I became one of the first women, if not the first woman, in Florida to have an internet consulting firm using these four spiritual tools: opportunity, desire, ability, and time. Now, this was not exactly what I had planned in my mind. No, that's not how my life goes. I just go with the flow. But there is one thing I do, and that is when opportunity knocks, I open the door. So back in 1989, I was a teacher. I had worked really, really hard to become a teacher. I was going to school full time, working full time. I waitressed after I got my degree so that I could find a way back in, and I finally found my way back into teaching, and I loved it. I love being able to share my knowledge. I love being able to use my gifts to look at kids and share information with them and watch them light up as they got whatever it was that I was teaching. I love being a teacher where we got to take them to sea camp in the Keys where they learned oceanography. I love being able to hold pageants from the medieval times so that the kids could learn in an experiential way what it was like. I loved having a computer lab where there was all these brand new PC juniors in 1989, and there was software called Teaching and Learning with Computers on it, but there was no curriculum. But I was trying to learn and I was trying to help them. It was my favorite thing to do in the world. However, I wasn't making enough money. I was working side hustles like writing curriculum for Palm Beach County schools for gifted kids. I was teaching summer school. I was doing all these little side hustles to make a little extra money, and it was really, really hard for me. And I was also really depressed. I was in these schools. I were working at two schools. I was working at two schools, and I had to transfer going back and forth teaching all these little kids. And it was in a poverty-stricken area, and it was so depressing. And there was a time when the gunmen came through our school as the kids were being released. Nobody got hurt, but it was scary to me. A woman was raped at one of my other schools. There was this sense of dread all the time. I drove by a drug deal that was going down, and they followed me until I got to the police station. I was not feeling safe, and I wanted out. And I remember being at the top of the hill of the school that I was working at and feeling so depressed and looking over from my poverty-stricken school district area to Palm Beach where all the wealthy people lived, and I just wanted something different for myself. And for a moment there was this beautiful window of openness, and it felt so good. It felt like an opportunity, and then it closed. I was like, wow, I wish I could feel that all the time. And then some weeks later happened, came along, and a friend of mine invited me to dinner, and she says, my husband wants to talk to you. And so her husband, Jim, says, hey, Patty, at dinner, I hear you're a teacher. I'm like, yeah, I'm a teacher. And that you write curriculum? Yeah, I write curriculum. And he says, well, IBM wants to hire you. I'm like, what? What? He says, yeah, we have a computer program that needs curriculum written, and you know how to do it, and you're a teacher, and it's called Teaching and Learning with Computers. I kid you not. That's how that one rolled. And I was like, oh my God, here's an opportunity. And then he tells me how much I was going to make. It was triple what I was making as a teacher. Yes, it's sad that teachers aren't compensated, but the synchronicity of it all was just spectacular, don't you think? And so that opportunity came. I had the desire. I wanted out. I had the ability. that just came to me. It was amazing. And it was time, don't you think? And so I left this tenured job, almost tenured job, a stable job, to go into the unknown, to go into the abyss. And it was scary AF. I can't tell you how mortified I was to leave something stable and secure to something I didn't know. I didn't know anything about computers. I knew nothing about information technology. However, I was put in the place where I was going to learn it, where we had those, you know, IBM XTs, if you know how old. I had the 5 1/4 floppy disks back then, and I had to learn to write. I had to learn computer programming. I had to learn a lot. I had to learn things that I never even knew existed, like OS2. Oh my God. If you know what I'm talking about, OS2, you know how old I am. But what happened was IBM was, after my years there with them, they were going to close in 1994. They were closing the branch in Boca Raton. And a friend of mine called me and said, hey, you need to get into the internet consulting business in 1994. And when they made the announcement at IBM that we were going to be moving, I knew what business I was going to get into, because everybody went to their offices, because we didn't have cubicles back then. They went to their offices and got on their web browser, and I had been writing HTML my whole career at IBM, because that's what was being used to produce the books that I wrote. And that's how I became the first woman, if not the first woman, one of the first women in Florida to have an internet consulting firm. I had the opportunity, I had the desire, I had the ability, and it was time. And if you like this idea of what I just shared and it inspires you, please like and subscribe and see if you can open up to be open to new possibilities in your life, because you don't have to make things happen. You just allow them to come to you by your desire, by who you are. And when opportunity knocks, you may want to open the door. And so today I'm reading from One Day at a Time, and it says, how do I know what is mine in all the possible things that I can do? And my primary concern must be my personal development. I cannot give to anyone else something I don't have. And I learned to love myself enough to seek my own healing. When I can love myself as I am, I'm better able to accept human limitations of all God's other children. And finally, because God loves me, I express gratitude for this love through service, which keeps my spiritual practice alive for me. And I do what is in my power to do. I am given the opportunity, desire, ability, and time to do whatever God assigns me, one day at a time. And if I lack any of these 4 things, then I need to humbly let go and accept my limitations. And right now, God's telling me to do this, and I'm doing this every day. And I love that you're here. And please just keep joining me every day for the next 100 days, so that you can find those spiritual practices that may work for you, so that you can have a more fulfilling and loving life. I love you.